What if I told you that right now, today, March 9th, 2026, the entire financial system as you know it is being quietly dismantled and rebuilt from scratch? What if I told you that NASDAQ, yes, the NASDAQ stock exchange, just officially partnered with one of the world's biggest crypto exchanges to make stock trading available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on the blockchain? And what if I told you that while stocks are crashing today, while oil is spiking above $110 a barrel for the first time since 2022, and while Bitcoin just bounced back from $65,000, there is a massive financial revolution quietly launching in the background that most people have absolutely no idea about? Stick with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to break down everything happening right now, in real time, and what it means for your money. Let's start with where we are today. Right now, as of this morning, Monday, March 9th, 2026, global financial markets are in freefall. The Dow Jones, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ are all down sharply at the open. Oil prices have surged above $110 per barrel, the first time oil has been this high since 2022. At its peak earlier today, oil briefly spiked toward $119 a barrel. Why? One word: Iran. For the past 10 days, the United States and Israel have been engaged in active military conflict with Iran. The war has forced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical oil shipping lanes on Earth. Over 20% of the world's daily oil supply flows through that strait. With it partially blocked and Gulf states cutting back production, the oil market has absolutely exploded. According to NPR, world shares are tumbling this morning as Iran war fears push crude prices over $110 a barrel. Al Jazeera confirms oil soared past $100, and now stocks are plunging globally. The G7 is reportedly discussing a joint emergency release of oil reserves to try to calm the market. But so far, markets are not impressed. The S&P 500 fell to 6,666 points as of this morning, down 1.1% from Friday. NASDAQ futures were down over 1.1% before the open. The Dow Jones sank nearly 200 points. Fear is everywhere. And then there's Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a rough weekend. On Sunday night, BTC fell all the way down to around 65,960. That's nearly a $10,000 drop from its recent month high of $74,000 reached just days earlier. But here's what's wild, and this is something that even Wall Street veterans are scratching their heads about. As of this morning, Bitcoin has rebounded. It's now trading around $69,000. That is incredibly surprising given how hard traditional markets got hit. As Trade Nation analyst David Morrison put it this morning, and I quote, "Bitcoin has displayed surprising resilience despite the extreme volatility exhibited across traditional assets." He noted that Bitcoin held above $65,000 during its recent retreat, and that if it can push back above $70,000 and hold that level, bulls will be encouraged. But he also warned, if Bitcoin fails to hold $70,000, it could retest support around $60,000. Here's the bigger question though: why is Bitcoin holding up while everything else falls? The answer, according to analysts this morning, is defensive capital. Investors who are nervous about oil-sensitive assets, airlines, logistics, manufacturing, energy consumers, are quietly rotating into digital assets as a hedge. Bitcoin is being treated, at least partially, like a digital safe haven. One analyst wrote, "With traditional financial markets under pressure and supply chains threatened by disruptions in the Middle East, digital assets appear to be attracting defensive capital from investors seeking alternatives to oil-sensitive assets." That is a massive shift in how institutional money is viewing Bitcoin, and it connects directly to our next story. Before we get to the bombshell NASDAQ Kraken news, let's talk about Bitcoin ETFs, because the data here is stunning. Last week, spot Bitcoin ETFs in the United States recorded $568.48 million in total net inflows. That marks the second consecutive week of net positive ETF buying, after 5 straight weeks of outflows. Let that sink in. After 5 weeks of investors pulling money out of Bitcoin ETFs, a stretch that was terrifying a lot of people in the crypto space, institutions came back in, hard, 2 weeks in a row. BlackRock's IBIT, the world's largest Bitcoin ETF, was the biggest driver, pulling in over $660 million in the week of March 2nd through 6th alone. However, Thursday and Friday weren't pretty. Thursday and Friday saw combined outflows of $576.8 million, as the oil shock and Iran war fears spooked investors and triggered a sell-off across all risk assets. So where does that leave us? We've got a Bitcoin that dropped from $74,000 to $65,960 over the course of a week, but then bounced. We've got 2 straight weeks of net ETF inflows telling us institutions are still accumulating, and we've got a macro environment that is genuinely terrifying. Oil above $110, a war in the Middle East, and a stock market in freefall. But here's the thing about Bitcoin. It's survived wars, crashes, regulatory attacks, and media death declarations more times than I can count, and every single time it's come back stronger. Now let's talk about the story that changes everything. This morning, Monday, March 9th, 2026, NASDAQ made one of the most significant announcements in the history of American financial markets. NASDAQ officially announced it is partnering with Payward, the parent company of global crypto exchange Kraken, to develop an infrastructure that will allow tokenized stocks to trade 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the blockchain. Let me say that again. The NASDAQ Stock Exchange, the second largest stock exchange on the planet, home to Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Tesla, and thousands of other companies, is partnering with a crypto exchange to put stocks on the blockchain. This is not a rumor. This is not speculation. So what exactly is happening? Let me break it down in simple terms. Right now, when you buy a stock through your brokerage, say 1 share of Apple, you technically don't own the stock directly. It's held through a system called the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, or DTCC. Trading happens between 9:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern Time on weekdays only. Settlement, meaning the actual transfer of ownership, takes 2 business days. Tokenization changes all of that. Here's the vision. NASDAQ will create a digital token that represents 1 share of stock. That token lives on a blockchain, a public, transparent, and secure digital ledger. Because blockchains operate around the clock, trading these tokens can happen at any time, 2 a.m. on a Saturday, Christmas Day, during the middle of an Iran war crisis at 11 p.m. on a Sunday night. The settlement? Instantaneous. No 2-day waiting period. The token transfers the second the transaction is confirmed. But this isn't just about trading hours. NASDAQ's plan goes even deeper. They are designing a system where the token holder gets the exact same rights as a traditional shareholder, including proxy voting rights, dividends, and full corporate governance rights. Now here's where Kraken comes in. Kraken, through its parent company Payward, will build what they're calling an equities transformation gateway. This is the technical bridge that allows tokenized stocks to move fluidly between the traditional regulated financial system and the on-chain crypto world. So imagine you own shares of Tesla on NASDAQ. Through this gateway, you can convert them to tokenized Tesla tokens on the blockchain, trade them globally anytime you want, and convert them back to traditional shares anytime you want. Kraken CEO Arjun Sethi said this morning that the partnership helps build the liquidity layer and applications needed for tokenized equities to function within a global, always-on market structure. The framework is expected to launch in the first half of 2027, pending final SEC approval. And NASDAQ also announced a partnership with Centurion, a pan-European settlement platform for tokenized assets owned by Börse Stuttgart Group. This means NASDAQ's European trading venues will also connect to the tokenized settlement network. Now here's something that will absolutely blow your mind. This isn't just a future plan, it's already working. Kraken launched its tokenized stocks product, called X Stocks, back in June 2025. And in under 8 months, without mainstream awareness, X Stocks has already generated over $25 billion in total transaction volume. That's right, $25 billion in tokenized stock trades. X Stocks lets you trade one-to-one tokenized versions of top US stocks and ETFs, companies like Tesla, Nvidia, Amazon, and S&P 500 ETFs, 24 hours a day on weekdays. This is already real. The tech works. The volume is real. And now with NASDAQ officially on board, with their regulatory relationships, their brand, and their infrastructure, this product is about to go from a $25 billion niche product to potentially a $1 trillion market. For context, the entire US stock market is worth over $50 trillion. Global equity markets are over $100 trillion. And before you think this is just one exchange taking a gamble, NASDAQ's biggest competitor just announced the exact same thing. Earlier this year, the New York Stock Exchange, owned by Intercontinental Exchange, announced it is also building its own tokenized stock trading venue using blockchain technology. So now both of the 2 biggest stock exchanges in America, NASDAQ and NYC, are racing to build the infrastructure for tokenized stock trading. When both sides of Wall Street are moving in the same direction at the same time, that is not a trend. That is a paradigm shift. So let's talk about what all of this means for you, the regular investor sitting at home. Global access to American stocks, 24-hour reactions to news, instant settlement, real ownership on-chain. These are changes that could reshape how the entire financial system operates. Every time Wall Street builds more infrastructure around crypto, it legitimizes the entire asset class. Let me give you the big picture. We are watching, in real time, the merger of Wall Street and crypto. The old financial system, built on paper, two-day settlement, and limited trading hours, is being replaced by a system that runs globally, transparently, on the blockchain. Bitcoin started this revolution years ago with a simple idea. What if money could move without banks? Now NASDAQ, the symbol of American capitalism, is asking, what if stocks could move the same way? The answer appears to be yes. The train is leaving the station. The question is whether you're on it. So here's where we stand as of today, March 9th, 2026. Bitcoin is showing resilience compared to traditional markets. Oil prices are surging due to geopolitical conflict. NASDAQ is partnering with Kraken to bring tokenized stock trading. Institutions continue buying through Bitcoin ETFs, and billions of dollars in tokenized stock volume has already been traded. This is the story of our financial lifetime. If you found this video valuable, smash the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, because this channel covers these kinds of financial shifts as they happen. Drop a comment below. Do you think tokenized stocks on blockchain are the future, or is this a step too far for traditional investors? And share this video with someone who needs to understand what is happening to their money right now. The financial revolution is not coming. It's already here. I'll see you in the next one. Disclaimer: this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Cryptocurrency and stock investments are highly volatile and risky. Always consult a certified financial advisor before making investment decisions.